Welcome everyone to another edition of the Industry Transition Zoom call. And we're very happy today to have our friend Tim Oden join us. Welcome, Tim. Tim is the National Sales Manager for Business Development at Schwab. I hope I got that right, Tim.
Did indeed. Tony, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you, but now you're no longer from the future. You used to have this sort of really clean-shaven look where you were, I thought, maybe like you're from 2030, but now you're just regular old Tim with hair.
No. Another casualty of the COVID pandemic is both my fitted suits and my hairstyle, Tony. You know how it works. So
I unfortunately do. I'm trying to find the camera angle that doesn't make me look fat. We kept trying to figure out earlier. Well, since it's been such a long time since we, I think there are a few things to talk about. Boy, we had a dumpster fire last year. And in the middle of that, of course, you guys had integration. We can talk about that too. But, first off, let's tell everybody kind of, how you went through it. You had a good year, you kept recruiting, kept doing everything. But we had this situation that was unprecedented, and things accelerated and decelerated. I mean, we have a little bit of hindsight, now on it. So there was a technology thing that was happening, and now that's really accelerated. There was a decentralization and deceleration of like real estate, for instance. Some things are, kind of going back. What are you guys taking from 2020 and how was your 2020?
Yeah, well, it's a good question. And it was really a tale of 2 years. And I think this is consistent with what a lot of people will tell you, which is just, we started the year off gangbusters. And for about 6 weeks into January and February was very much ahead of our plan, our targets, our estimates. And then we went full stop. And if you think about, who we target mostly and who we speak to, it's that advisors coming out of some form of an affiliate model. They were having to deal with not only the personal challenges of the pandemic and how it was impacting them and their families, but also having to work with their clients. And so any external conversations had to go on halt, as you can imagine. And so we really went to 4 months of almost dead stop, just trying to keep the lights on as we were dealing with a pure remote environment, as were our clients, to be blunt. That started to change about June. We started to see a little bit of green shoots come up as we started to see the engagement. People starting to call in, people starting to talk to us, were willing to start to think about their future.
And we had a really bad market too at one point in there, down, badly. And then they started to, get a little bit better.
You got it, exactly. And we saw that start to change just towards about the midsummer. And really what tells us things are moving in the right direction is when advisors are kind of through that phase where they have done all of their client maintenance, right? They've kind of done the emotional support that their clients are in need of, and are now able to look out for their own kind of futures, and they start to evaluate what works, what doesn't work, and what's of interest to them. And so we ended up with, again, third quarter and fourth quarter, two different experiences from our first 2 quarters, which were off the charts. They were both the second and the third largest in terms of net asset flows for us, in terms of new clients coming in 2020. And so for us, we ended the year very, very strong. We ended the year, even with that 4 or 5 months of kind of dead space, ahead of the previous year's record asset totals, which is really pretty phenomenal. That momentum has carried in. So that was kind of the interesting thing for us, Tony, is that how quickly it stopped, but then also how quickly it got going again, and it was almost like it had this kind of kinetic energy.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, it's because I think there's a bunch of factors that sort of play in here, right? One is guys are at home and there's nobody looking over their shoulder, and they're, it's a different environment. And I think I wrote about this in one of my pieces, which is, once the advisors have seen Paris, you can't keep them down on the farm, right? So once they've seen that they could do this from home, and this and there was a level of acceptance with all this virtual technology, right? There was an acceptance with recruiting. I know you're a guy who likes handshakes and travel 900 days a year and you're out pressing flesh. Can't do that. So we've accepted that this is okay. This kind of communication. So what factored in your mind into sort of making that shift?
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it in that piece you wrote. I think there's always been a belief with many advisors that They need to be able to do business like they've always done business to retain their clients, right? That's what their clients value. And what I think the 2020 showed many is that their clients actually are very open to a different type of service model, different type of interaction. That remote actually is very comfortable to them. Now, it was forced on everybody, so we had to get comfortable. Many of us get comfortable very quickly. But what it proved was the model. And that model is very much playing to the strengths of the independent model, which allows for virtual delivery of services, virtual, the use of technology, whether that's the ability to use websites or applications on mobile devices.
But everything, it's just not a one size fits all kind of solution, which you have to have when you have, so if somebody wants to have, I mean, you see this we mentioned it, this deceleration in real estate. I'm curious to know what you're seeing out there, but it's not for everybody. But if you're an RIA and you could say, you know what, I'm spending 100 grand on real estate every year, I can make that 50 or 40. You just have a nice conference room, and 4 of us can be on a sales desk behind it. We don't need it. So people can be home half the time. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing people try to come up with solutions like that?
Yeah, well, I think it's still a little bit early because those contracts tend to be a little bit long, and everybody's still trying to get a sense for what that looks like. But I think what you've struck is this, we've been to both extremes, right? We've been in one extreme where everything was done in person with very little technology involved, and then everything was forced into technology, much like this interview, right? Done via virtually versus in person. And now I think what we're seeing is that that's starting to remediate back to the average or the mean of those two issues. There will always be a need for advisors to be able to sit across the table from their clients at some point in their client's lifespan, right? They're going to need to be able to do that. And therefore the need for a physical office space. But do I have to bring all of my people into a physical office space to be able to do the normal blocking and tackling of running an RIA? Absolutely not. And I think that's what we've learned from the last year is that a lot of that can be done virtually. Now, there are those that would prefer to be virtual. I think you've seen some of the articles. Maybe you've seen this with your own business. There are some that say we want to get back to the office. There's a personal interest in having employees come back to the office. And then others saying, listen, it fits my lifestyle to be able to work at home at least part of the time. And I think what we're going to see is that there's going to be some variation of both of those, but all of that points towards less of a physical footprint than more. And so I think that's going to be the interesting thing.
I think we tend to always view things through a lens that we see all the time, but I tend to lean towards a more tech advanced view because the baby boomers and the grandkids, and they're using the Zoom technology, and and they certainly want to see their advisor sometimes. They want to, they need to be reassured. There's a lot of that still going to happen, but I think the competition, long term is, no one wants to hear, but it's between the robos and sales desks where there's 24-hour service. You get a different person every time, which is not what you want, but it's there. Yeah. It's contact. And if you're running your business with a telephone or a cell phone, right, and a 9 to 5, whatever, that's analog. That is yesterday's model. The clients have been home. They're used to having you on call now. This is the negative, the flip side of what's going on the Zoom side, right? Mm-hmm. The clients want to call you at 7 o'clock in the morning or in the evening, and you're in your pajamas. They know you're home. They want to talk to you. So there's got to be a way to. We got to work that. We got to figure out a way to. If you're not spending money on real estate, spend money on teammates who can do more of that kind of be available for people.
No doubt. Well, Tony, what's interesting is that I think what you're going to see is this bifurcation of the transactions that go into a relationship. Those transactions, pure transactions, hey, I need to know my balance, I need to wire some funds, I need to execute a trade. That's all going to be virtual. There's no need for us to.
And you guys have been doing that for a while. You guys have been doing it online for a long time like that.
Absolutely. And almost all of our advisors have embraced that there's so much of what we used to associate as value is all done via the technology now. What that does is that creates an incredible amount of leverage in an advisor's office to be able to use their capacity on things that deepen the trust that they have with their clients. And so will there be a need for in-person? Yeah, because you know what? There's a certain element of humanity that enjoys the camaraderie of being together. but you'll be able to do that selectively. It won't be, you and I won't get together and talk about wiring money out to close a house.
Right.
We'll get together and talk about how you're feeling about your retirement, or how you're feeling about your grandkids, or what other things you've got going in your life events that will deepen the trust level that advisors have with their clients. That's the exciting thing, is that level of trust that will emerge from this new kind of environment.
And if you do all the other stuff via tech, you kind of get the nonsense out of the way.
No doubt.
You know,
absolutely.
and when your time is just spent on, you got to build your team the right way. And I think that's part of what advisors are going to have to work on going forward, you know, figuring out the real estate, they got to figure the team size.
And you think about even the tech stack and how you have organized the delivery of your mechanism for servicing clients. The tech stack more important, your contact relationship management software and the integration's even more important. So that's going to take on a larger role for those advisors that have the flexibility to be able to create technology that solves that faster. They're going to thrive.
Yeah, and I think that you have to acknowledge that there's been a shift. And you're right, the right tech stack is the thing that's going to really help, you know, sort of separate advisors out. But there are going to be the haves and have-nots of advisors, the ones who embrace and don't embrace, you know, and the folks that do are going to be able to leverage, like you said, and move forward. The other thing I find interesting is, you know, what's seldom talked about, except by me, of course, is that when I started in this business, you used to be able to cold call and go all over the country. What I'm seeing now, a lot of, is through this Zoom technology, clients are comfortable enough. You know, the way the business then shifted in the last 15, 20 years was your clients were in your neighborhood. You know, you all went to the same yacht club, or you all played golf together, you did something together, you know, a sport.
Yeah.
Like your client was a sort of local group with referrals, right, in a town.
Mm-hmm.
So, but today you can do this and be far away. You're in Arizona or whatever, you know, wherever the Oden compound is that you're in, or maybe in a bunker somewhere. I don't know. The point being, you could be over where you are, and I'm here, and you can develop this rapport, and you can have a client.
Yeah, well, absolutely. What you speak to is that advisors have the incredible ability using technology to expand their reach.
Yeah.
And so in the past, you're right, you created kind of I'm known for and a brand, and it expanded within your community. If you wanted to extend your reach, you put a physical office space in a new geographical market and then tried to expand it from there. You don't have to do that anymore. You can become a national brand that focuses intensely on what you do well, which is could be very niche oriented. You're looking for a very specific type of client, but you're not limited by the geography anymore. And that's what technology is going to enable us to do. Advisors who have a very strong focus on what their ideal client looks like and what their strengths are as an advisory firm are going to be able to find new clients easier in this world. Because to your point, I don't have to jump on a plane to go find the clients. I can use technology, and I'm not limited by the geography that I'm currently in.
Yeah, and I think with the clients, especially the boomers who are still control most of the assets, there's a level of acceptance. You know, they accept that this is kind of the way it is for now. But I think even going forward, they'll be, look, at some point you'll have to get on a plane to get a $5 million account, but you can certainly start the process and you know, get it to a good level. You know, just doing this. You know? Yeah,
no doubt. Well, Tony, you know, one of the things we have to fix is this whole double muting thing, because I saw that one of the most common new phrases for 2020 was you're on mute. So we got to figure that out. Once we get that figured out, I think the industry is all green flags.
Well, we've got issues in the industry. Don't worry about it. We got plenty to worry about. And speaking of worries, are you worried? Not worried? How's the integration going? You know, I've read. You know, we read about it. You know, we kind of have a sense of that's going pretty well. But what jumps out at you when you?
Yeah, you know, I've had an opportunity to be able to spend a great deal of time, both pre and post the close of the transaction, working with our colleagues that from TD Ameritrade. And I will tell you, there is a single driving factor here that has just jumped out. It's a theme that you see across all areas of Schwab. And that is that in spite of the effort both sales organizations had by previously trying to create this Hatfields and McCoys, we're different, they're different, we're here, there's actually remarkable synergy around things like philosophical alignment around doing what's right for clients. There's remarkable enthusiasm for client-centric service. And so what we're finding is that every time a new group gets introduced and we start talking about how we're going to work together, we're already kind of philosophically aligned.
Right.
And that's exciting because now we can spend less time worrying about how do we connect the dots on policies and procedures. That has to happen. But we get excitement in the fact that, well, I'm thinking this, what are you thinking? And what that brings to the industry is you bring kind of the best of both of the firms, which is the enthusiasm, the creativity, and above all else, that insane focus on trying to make the clients the center of every decision that's made. That's been the theme that's been the most rewarding and kind of the most interesting to me.
I think that's interesting because it's, in my mind, that's one of the universal truths of this business, right? So if you're an advisor and you're a jerk, you have jerks for clients. There's no question about it. You be an advisor, you dislike, I guarantee his clients are like that, right? Because they have to, because he's prospect. But you meet a real nice guy, nice woman who's an advisor, then I will tell you, oh, sorry about that. Then I will tell you their clients are nice. And the same goes true for firms. So you did some due diligence on the firm. Certainly, if you guys weren't aligned on different levels, you wouldn't have gone through the transaction. So it's not a surprise to me that you're coming up with a lot of the same likes and dislikes. And I always often said, New York City is you make it I grew up there, right? So you make it a small place. Like if you like country music, there's like 6 bars you can go to. So you see the same people all the time. You self-select here. So people have it. It's interesting because I wonder if I'm assuming that's true of Schwab as a larger organization, right? People can choose who they want to go to, and you guys choose who you want to join you, right? It's a mutual thing. So it wouldn't surprise me that you kind of have a lot of the same type of people working at.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Well, Tony, you and I have been in this business for a very long time, and we both understand, I think inherently, that if you don't find that philosophical match, either with your colleagues or with your clients, then you're going to spend a disproportionate amount of time managing that inconsistency. And those clients aren't going to end up being good clients because they're not a match. What you provide is not what they're looking for, and so you're trying to constantly fix that. Same with colleagues. Is that if you aren't aligned, then every step of the way, every decision you make, you have to go back and kind of set that philosophical groundwork. And so for us, we do have a pretty strong bias around working with firms and working with partners that have this insane focus on doing what's right for the clients. Yeah. And so with TD Ameritrade, what we were able to find is an entire firm that was oriented that way. And so it's no surprise that as we get into the execution of the integration, that at every level of their organization, we're met with that same enthusiasm. And so it bodes very well for the future of the two firms coming together as one. And it's exciting to work with our colleagues over there at Brickell.
It makes it fun. So speaking of the firms and all the stuff you have to do, and you and I have been through this because we've had the same issue at AdvisorHub with our conference. You have Impact. Isn't it like tomorrow? It's coming up. Right?
It only feels like it. Yeah. November generally. Yeah. And we just had to come out and announce that it's going to be virtual. And that's a logistical issue, right? It's still a little bit too early in states opening for us to be able to get people to commit to coming into a single location. So we look forward to the opportunity to be back in person with everyone, not because we need to be in person to deliver content, because we figured out, all of us, you and I figured this out, in our respective lines of work, that we can deliver content via a number of different channels pretty effectively. But there's always this piece of this business, which I know I enjoy a great deal, and that is getting together with friends and colleagues and talking about the business and talking about the future and kindling those relationships. And I think that's what we've sacrificed over the last 12 months, haven't we? So I look forward, whether it's your conference or our conference, I look forward to the opportunity of being back in person where we can continue those relationships. And I think we're starting to see that's on the horizon.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I miss everybody, and we're people. If you're in this business, you're a people person. You want to be in front of everybody and have a cocktail or two. That's maybe just more me than you. But it's interesting because that kind of goes back to what we were saying before about where our advisor is going to end up with the technology. So I'll tell you what we're going to do is we're going to have. There's a ton that I liked about the virtual. The scale, the fact, we had people fly from California for our event and all that kind of stuff, come out to New York and did New York because that's just so much easier for me to be able to get that. We're a small staff and, So we always had fun. But I'm not going to get rid of that. I love the virtual, the scale, the ability to even take people ahead of time so you can make sure you get the guests you want, and you have the content that you want. There's so much good about virtual. I don't ever want to lose that, but I don't want to stop doing the live. So, you know, we're just going to add this to our repertoire of things that we do, you know,
That's
and
exactly
take it with us, you know.
I think
And that's why I think on the technology side that a lot of advisors are going to do the same thing. They're going to hold on to the advantages that they have with the Zoom stuff, you know.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. Even I look forward to coming to New York and seeing you in person.
I know. I think we subjected you to a crowd Q&A. Well, we have that on tape somewhere, so just FYI.
Oh heavens! Okay.
It's still live on the site somewhere. So I'm really happy about where events are going and having us all get together as a community. And I think, you know, we faced a lot. It's a small world. We lost people, you know, through the pandemic, and a lot of people in different industries. You know, I don't know anyone who was impacted, but it's such a small world here that we knew the people. You know, or at least you talked to them on the phone maybe once. So it was a tough year. But also you see the resilience. You know, you see that you know, this industry kept its humanity and through really tough times. So I'm optimistic about 21. Even with any kind of political whatever, I'm just super optimistic about our industry.
Yeah, you and me both, Tony. Listen, you have to be optimistic to be in this industry, I think, you know, because pessimists don't survive long enough. There's always something that's a hurdle if you're a pessimist. But as an optimist, I share with you the same enthusiasm for 2021. I mean, if you think about, there's a couple of things that we can look at. One is that we see a light at the end of the tunnel around whatever return to normalcy looks like, whether that's vaccines or crowd immunity, or whatever it happens to be. There's some normalcy, and so that's encouraging. You know, there's always going to be a dark spot when we look at 2020, regardless of how the numbers played out, because we all know somebody who was impacted and somebody who, you know, there was a tragedy in a family that you had to deal with, or maybe you had that tragedy, and you can't underplay how big of an emotional scar that took on all of us. The way to fix that is to get back where we can be in person, where we can do so with health and confidence that we're not going to be part of a problem, and instead that we can get back to that emotional support. I look forward to 2021 being that way. Listen, I sit here today, and if it was only about the numbers, then I'd say we've already come out of the tunnel, right? We're up 54% so far this year over last year's volumes. And as an organization, when you think about 50% growth, you know, that's just not what you normally plan for, but that's a sign of the value of the model and that it's resonating with advisors that are thinking about moving to the independent channel. And so there's no end in sight for that, but it's far more than just the numbers, Tony. It is about some semblance of normalcy with our family and our friends, and yes, our industry colleagues, so that we can get back to doing what we all do very well. And that's the reason why I'm so excited about 2021, is what we do well is we service people.
Yeah.
We take care of their needs. We answer questions. We help them navigate the complexities, whether it's through their investments as a wealth owner or through starting an RIA firm. We do that well. Yeah. And I can't wait to get back to the point where that's all we focus on. And we don't have to focus on the masks or limited travel or just technology to deliver that service, Tony. I just hope we get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, that's great. I think that we should probably end on that note, because I think that sums it up pretty nicely. The only thing I would add to this whole conversation is that, look, you're having success, other folks are having success, and why is it important to see, you know, recruitment or, you know, asset gathering, where it goes? Because advisors are voting with their feet. They're saying, I believe this model is the future. You wouldn't risk your family, your life's work, and your clients' assets. I mean, for the advisors just really don't, no matter what other people say. They wouldn't do that if they didn't think this is where the future is. This is where it's going. So it's important to sort of track that stuff, just to say, you know, where are we going to be, you know, and who do we trust? So I'm glad you're having success, Tim, and look forward to talking to you again and seeing you in person.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, Tony. It's always good catching up with you.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.